For the Life of Laetitia by Merle Hodge. Chapter 7. Mr. Cephas came home very late in the night. Miss Velma had sat all evening in the rocking chair with her Daily Word on her lap, craning her neck every time she heard a car. She finally got up with a long sigh and walked slowly, heavily through the house to her bedroom. She walked as though she were twice as old as Ma. The next morning, very early, she woke me up to go to church with her. The church was a long walk away. By the time we got back, the sun was high in the sky. Mr. Cephas's car was parked snugly in the garage, and the house was still closed up and quiet as a tomb. Miss Velma opened the front door with great care, and since she tiptoed through the drawing room, so did I. She changed her clothes and went to the kitchen. Michael was still sleeping, sprawled across the bed when I had finished changing my clothes. I dragged the cover off him to wake him up. Again kitchen. Miss Velma was working on Bee's breakfast and lunch. She had put the radio on the counter and was trying to listen to Sunday Theatre. Ma also enjoyed listening to this program, but as Miss Velma had the radio turned down to the mintest possible volume, so it didn't seem to me that she could be getting much out of it. Michael appeared at the kitchen door, announced peevishly that he was hungry. Miss Velma put us both to sit at the kitchen table, and set food before us. Then, still straining her ears to hear the radio, she went to and fro between the kitchen and dining room, setting the big polished table for Mr. Cephas. Michael disappeared into the neighborhood shortly after he had eaten. His bed and the area surrounding it looked like what my mother would call the wreck of the Hesperus. Mr. Cephas woke up and Miss Velma turned up the radio, just in time to hear the last few words and the theme song of Sunday Theatre. Before he sat down to eat, Mr. Cephas put on a record of holy music. "Nearer, My God, to Thee" blared through the house. Miss Velma turned off her little radio and started to cut up the chicken for lunch. She took her tea on her feet. At the end of Onward, Christian Soldiers, the music went off. Shortly afterwards, Mr. Cephas's car started up and drove out. We were peeling the vegetables. Michael came home when he was hungry. Miss Velma had to fill him up with sweet biscuits to keep him quiet, because Mr. Cephas wasn't home yet for Sunday lunch. He finally arrived at 3:15 and we sat down to lunch in. I was sitting in the drawing room, reading. This drawing room still made me feel very uncomfortable and out of place. It was crammed with upright furniture, most of which was dressed in dark velveteen. There were crowds of ornaments everywhere, rich-looking ornaments that jostled each other on little tables, on the walls, and on the big television set that was out of order. This drawing room was like the store windows you saw in town, not a place where you would go and sit in your home clothes. But Ma had instructed me that in other people's house I could not spend hours curled up in the bed reading. The proper thing to do was to sit in the drawing room. And not cock up lawlessly in their chairs, either, as we did in ours when we thought she wasn't looking. But one felt no urge to cock up lawlessly in this drawing room, where one had seen no one sit but Mr. Cephas. Yet I was well into my book, and transported far away, for now people were inside the house, and I had not even heard them arrive. My father was showing me to a small party of men, all more or less like him, yet I was well into my book and transported far away, for now people were inside the house and had not even heard them arrive. My father was showing me to a small party of men, all more or less like him. "That's the little scholar," he was saying in a jaunty voice. "See? Head in a book, ooh-wee. How you like that? This girl will be more scholar than the Prime Minister." I greeted the visitors and hurriedly got up to make myself scarce. But my father held me back. I had to shake the hand of each of his guests and stand uncomfortably by while they were told of how bright I was and what a large box of books, a whole library, I had brought with me. Then I helped Miss Velma bring out glasses and ice before escaping to the bedroom. The company settled down to drinking and chatting, and Mr. Cephas put on music. I heard Miss Velma slip quietly into her bedroom. Out in the drawing room, my father's voice was brimming over with jauntiness. Michael came in unnoticed through the back door and dived into his bed, covered from head to toe in the day's dust. Miss Velma got up immediately and shuffled over to our room to tell us to come and eat. While we were eating, Mr. Cephas came to the kitchen door. "Velma," he said, "fix up with some ice." Then his eyes focused on me. You finish reading? Come and give you daddy friends some ice. Let them see the scholar, man." Miss Velma gave me a bowl of ice and my father led me by the arm into the drawing room. He steered me from guest to guest for me to put ice in their glasses, and for him to tell them again of my brains and my books and what a big shot I was going to be when I grew up. He was very merry by this time. We finished eating. Miss Velma persuaded me minus Shale to take off his dirty clothes, but he drew the line at bathing. When the three of us went to sleep, the company was still loud and hearty in the drawing room. The next morning Miss Velma and I cleared away the debris.